So we are live. Thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Good to be here. And
Um,
despite what it looks like, I am not in front of the Golden Gate Bridge. So,
you're on the other side of the country,
yep,
um, Pennsylvania, right?
right. Yep. I'm just outside of
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
So yeah, why don't you introduce yourself, name, kind of how you stumbled on the program, all that good stuff.
Sure. My name is Jason Daniels. I'm just a smidgen over 40, getting closer and closer to the other mark. But yeah, I kind of got into this program primarily because I needed to change. And,
Yeah.
I got one of those mini reach out on LinkedIn that I was scrolling through the 40 emails I get today on LinkedIn. I was like, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I'll come back to it later. And then, start doing your own research. I was like, listen, I mean, the conversation never hurts, right? So let's see if there's something
Yeah.
out there that's for me. And I always say I
Yeah.
know enough to be dangerous about fitness and food, and I know what's right and what's wrong, but there's a lot of in between there. So,
Yeah.
it really was kind of a longing to learn. I kind of advertise myself as a lifelong learner, and as
Yeah.
you get older, and my kids are getting older, and you start thinking about mortality more when you're in your 40s versus when you're in your 20s, and can get away with eating 40 chicken wings and 10 beers and go run 10 miles the next day. I mean, that's just not reality anymore. And you
Yeah.
start thinking about your health more as that mortality.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was really,
Yeah.
once I started having a conversation, started on LinkedIn and then
Yeah.
eventually connected with you. And
Hmm.
it seemed like a great program. Doing my own research is kind of the way I was leaning. I was already intermittent fasting, during COVID.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what am I going to
Yeah.
do? I worked and I drank and ate, and I worked
Yeah.
out here and there and kind of lost focus on my workout program. But then I started working out again near the end of that kind of first year of COVID and intermittent fasting. So I found some tools that work.
Right.
Like I said, I knew enough about food that it's like, okay, if I have 40 chicken wings, that's going to be bad. But, really
Right.
learning, stuff like macros and nailing it down and really getting into a program that works for me. I mean, honestly, I know some things work for me, but,
Yeah.
until I ended up with you and Ambra, I was really trying to nail down what works for me and
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
the
I
resistance.
guess like in regard with that, like what do you feel like you were struggling with before you started with us?
I think it was consistency, especially
Hmm.
on the food side, right? You kind of
Yeah.
get nailed down with kids, and it's like, well, I've got work all day. I'm at work 10 hours, then I got to make dinner, then I got to get them to sports. So it's lack of preparation a lot of times. My
Yeah.
preparation was probably 15 to 20%. Now it's closer to 75, 80%. And then you just kind of have to go with the flow
Right.
as things change.
Right.
With preparation and learning, I've learned more about fiber this last month than I ever thought I would, about macros. I mean, everybody, I think at this point knows what macros are, just not how to use them and what works for you,
Right.
and really just how to cut weight and still not just be starving. And at the time
Yeah.
I was just running and doing light lifting and not realizing that I wasn't lifting enough to really build back that energy and strength, and also cut
Right.
weight and build different kind of weight. So it's just really learning. I mean, stuff I learned, when I was in college that you kind of brain dump over the years and you don't really
Yeah.
retain because you think you know it all at 21, 22. And just really getting back into a groove and a routine, and that consistency is really what I lacked.
Yeah. The consistency and obviously like you said off, I don't know if you just said it or if you said it offline, but you're like a lifelong learner. So like really going in and going into an approach of like learning more, everyone knows macros, but it's more of like how it actually applies. When we spoke on LinkedIn, by the way, like what were your hesitations before signing up?
I mean, you just never know who you're talking to on the other end. So it's like, okay, is this the real deal? Because you're getting, after our conversation, I was pretty convinced it was a real deal. After a
Yeah.
couple of conversations, not with just with you, but some other
Yeah.
folks, and you start doing your own research and realize that I'm just not going to pay somebody to give me some tips and advice. It's a really coachable program, and learning about food and really diving into the details of what you're putting in your body, and someone to hold you accountable. And I think that's kind of one of the big things that has helped me is, just being honest about what I do.
Yeah.
And, saying, hey, Amber, I struggled with this today, or I was at a wedding, 2 months ago. I was like, look, the reality is I'm probably going to have about 8 high noons tonight. But but really kind of working those things back in after cleaning yourself out. I mean, you can do those things and in
Hmm.
moderation, right? And I
Yeah.
really wasn't looking for a diet. I'm looking for more of a lifestyle and be able to still eat some of the good foods and just, be able to track it. It's like, okay, I know I'm going out to eat tomorrow, so let's plan for that, stuff like that.
Right.
Or, I
Right.
have a client
Yeah.
lunch I got to go to, plan for that. And it's just really thinking ahead. So, once
Yeah.
my hesitation was really, is this really going to work for me? But I knew if it was the right program and I could stay, largely consistent on it, that it sounded like it would work, and kind of diving into my own research on the side and, figuring out that DC is pretty legit, and hearing your story too, and other people's story. I mean, it's about, at 42, it's about more of a
Yeah.
lifestyle change. I don't want to diet. I want to kind of live this way and be okay with having pizza or a burger here and there, or wings if I want them, but kind of working around that and not saying, well, I'm going to starve myself to death to lose 25
Right.
pounds.
Right. Is that how, and kind of off topic, was that how you did it before? Was just like really cut as deep as you can? You were hungry all the time and kind of like running, and that's how you lose the weight before?
Yeah, I mean, it was fasting and running. The fasting really worked for
Yeah.
me, but it was almost too extreme. Instead of eating at noon, I go basically from dinner to noon. I would just have something really, really light, for lunch, and then just have a normal dinner. So it worked, but it worked
Yeah.
for cutting, but it doesn't work for building. And I was
Right.
eating a lot of protein, but not enough of it. And then, eventually it's just not enough carbs to build back up. And
Yeah.
as much as
Totally.
I try to avoid the carbs, it worked at first, but when you try to build back up, and then eventually it's like, okay, this isn't working for me. So the timing was really
Yeah.
right, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I gained some of that weight back, not all of it, but I knew I had to kind of reset and cut out some of that stuff.
Right.
So, yeah.
Speaking of which, like the building and cutting, like what have been your physical results in this program so far? I think we're what, June to November. What is that?
Yeah. Yeah. So just
Right.
prior to talking to you, I was right around 220, and I think my lowest was 191, but my average was right around 193 when I got on the
Hmm.
scale one morning after running, and I said, Amber, I'm at 191, and I'm shocked. Like I couldn't believe it. Like I got off, showered, came back, and I did again. I was like, wow, I'm really down. And I think I was extremely dehydrated after a long run, so that was part of it. But I was averaging right around 193, and that's when we started to build back up. So kind of just prior, I was at 220 and got down to about 193, kind of on average, which
Yeah.
right was kind of it
Yeah.
was right where our goal was at. So it was like, oh my gosh, this is really working.
Why do you think this worked differently? Like, what was different with this program versus like the times you'd gotten, in shape before?
It was education and accountability. Again, I never did anything special. In my 20s and 30s, I just worked out a lot, ate a lot. I was always moving, right? Especially in the military. So, and then, once I got off active duty, became more sedentary lifestyles, traveling a lot. And then you just, over the years in your 30s, metabolisms change. And then it's like, oh my God, I'm 230 pounds. And you don't even realize it until it's,
Yeah.
your pants don't fit one day. So I never really did anything special. But at least on this last time, even without a lot of education, the fasting really helped me. I just wasn't doing enough of the other stuff, like, building back up.
Right.
And I was
Right.
lifting 3 days a week, but now I'm doing 5. And you start to see the results. And 8 weeks in, even though, my first 4 were really cutting, I could already see like, man, my arms are like fitting differently in my shirt already, and you start to notice those changes pretty quick when you're consistent and stick to the program. And then the other side is really just the accountability. Amber's has
Yeah.
a nice balance of holding me accountable, versus, coaching me through things and saying, hey, it's okay. You're at a baseball tournament all weekend. Just focus on calories and protein, and try not to eat, 300 grams of nachos while you're there. And the other point is, I mean, we all have low points in this. I mean, I had a low point
Mhm.
3 or 4 weeks ago, just really overwhelmed and busy with work and life, and she called me. I didn't really want to talk, but she was still there for me. And I bounced back that Monday and said, hey, I'm back on track. I just needed a couple days to reset my brain. And she didn't give up on me. And it was only 3 or 4 days of, I just wasn't feeling it. And it was all the external factors, and we talked about that a lot. And
Yeah.
you know, and even though you have friends and family who do that for you, I mean, she was just as much there for me saying, hey, listen, you got a lot going on in your life, and now's the time to stay consistent, because it's not only help you physically but mentally. And she's right, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
so many benefits outside the losing weight, and
Yeah.
now I'm building back up and better weight this time, and there's just a ton of benefits to having that coach with you there the whole time. And honestly, it's worth every penny, and it's not astronomical when you start breaking it down to the overall benefit of what you gain by this. And I mean, you know, to have a coach who can talk you through things, you know, 6, 7, 8 times a week is pretty amazing. And you know, and I think my only other hesitation in all this is I hate videoing myself in the gym, but but you get over that in a couple of weeks. But at first I was like, I don't really feel like I should be doing it. But then you realize, like, when you're getting feedback and you actually make the changes, like, oh, okay, I'm really feeling it in my lats today, because you know I'm actually doing it right now, you know, instead of just kind
Yeah.
of throwing a lat bar down. So
Totally.
yeah,
I mean, and the thing is too with doing that, like you really learn how to fish and do this on your own, because you're really testing that out, really looking at the form feedback videos and kind of like doing it
yeah.
again, just really learning by doing. What were some of your, like, obviously you lost the 30 pounds or 27 pounds. What were some of, like, did that affect other areas of your life? Not just the weight loss, but like getting into better shape, like outside of just your overall health?
I think one of the things that Amber really talked me through at first was routines, right? Which has kind of always been a part of my life. It's just getting back
Yeah.
into them and staying in routine. One of the things we focused on right away, which was helpful, was sleep. You know, I'm a notoriously short sleeper, and so I've really
Mhm.
focused on sleeping more, which has been tough for me.
Yeah.
You know, I still try to push 8 hours when I can, but you know, I'm naturally, you know, if I see the sun, I'm done. So I've been trying to go to bed earlier and get a bedtime routine. It's simple stuff like that, sleeping more, you know, not getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night. I mean, it happens sometimes, but you know, stuff like that. I've been sleeping better. And then, you know, just the mental capacity change. I feel like I get more done at work, and I feel like my capacity was already pretty high. But you know, when you're in a good routine, eating better, I feel like I have more energy. You know, I'm not begging for that second giant coffee by the afternoon. You know, between the supplements and just the overall energy has been much better. You know, and just in everything in moderation, right? And you're drinking less on a program,
Yeah.
which is good. Which, even if you're not on a program, it's a good thing. But you know, so you have less effects of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, just sleep, energy, mental capacity. You know, I one of the things I told you and Amber from the beginning is, you know, my goal is a lifestyle change, but it's really to be
Yeah.
here for my kids as they get older,
Yeah.
you know, and not die an early death because of you know, some factors you could have controlled. There's a lot you can't control in life, but some of these you can. And then, you know, kind of seeing the results, right? And it's not just the physical, the mental results. It remotivates you to keep with the program and, you know, stay on track. And again, I'm not eating shards of lettuce at every meal. I'm eating good, healthy, fulfilling meals, and I don't feel hungry. And you know, I'm not begging for the snack drawer or fridge at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, because I'm already in bed by then, which I wasn't before. So
Right.
once you get into
Right.
that routine, you just see your energy level spikes. The supplements help too.
Yeah.
You know, and you're putting good, clean stuff into your body, which is helpful. So,
Yeah.
and then just, you know, my work productivity and overall everything, every aspect of my life has improved, not just the physical aspect. And obviously, you know, the physical side has been great, but you know, even my runs, I told Amber, losing the weight and then building the right kind of muscle weight back up has helped my runs. Like, I'm running as fast as I did when I was in the military. It's like, I can't believe it. I haven't done that in, you know, 15
Sick.
years. And so you see all that effect of shedding some of that bad weight, and that is
Yeah.
as much physical as is mental to me. It's like, thank God I just ran a 7.5 minute mile. I can't believe that, right? You know, and
Crazy.
that wasn't my
Fast.
goal. I told her I wanted to be 8 at 8.5, because I mean, I'm too old to run 6, 7 minute miles, but you know, I just did it one time. I was like, because I could, right? And that is, again, it's a physical attribute, but that affects my mental attributes just as much. Going, wow, you know, I'm not 22 anymore, but sure felt like it there for 7.5 minutes. So there's, I mean, it's a whole lifestyle thing that feels better. You know, it goes as far as communication, and you know, I feel more energized for my first meeting, even if it's early in the morning, which
Yeah.
is super helpful.
I love that. It's great to hear that. I mean, that's a really fast mile too. Going back, the last question I did have for you is obviously like, you're a dad of three, you're an executive, super busy. Like, what would you say to someone, another guy, and kind of has a lot on his
Yeah.
plate, but
Mm.
is thinking about getting in shape? What would you tell him about like doing this program, thinking about doing this program? Like, what would you tell someone in that position?
Yeah, I think it's first of all committing to the time, and it's hard. It really is. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing easy about this program, but I would say that it's easier when you think, and especially when you prepare and plan. I tell Amber all the time, I'm notorious for having curveballs thrown at me. It's just life, right? It's part of my job. It's just part of my role. So you have to kind of get out of firefighting mode though eventually and say, okay, well, I'm going to try to squeeze it in here. I mean, there's days that happens. I tell Amber all the time, it's like I just couldn't get out of my computer. Every time I went up to go for a walk, it's like something else came in that I had to deal with, and that's just life. But don't get frustrated by that. Sometimes you have to double up. Sometimes, I have to go for a walk at 9 o'clock at night. But the biggest thing for me is just I've gotten much better. I'm still not there. I'm probably 80% of the way there. And I would tell people is just work on preparation, really plan for the week, do what you can in terms of meal prep. And plan that time in. And for me, what works is just getting up early. I still get usually the appropriate amount of sleep, but I get up early before the hectic day of children and work starts. So, and I would always tell someone is just try to stay consistent and don't feel bad when you're not, right? It's consistency helps, but you're going to have baseball tournaments, you're going to have weddings, you're going to have life events. And I would just tell people, just go enjoy them. Like I have not gone to an event and not enjoyed myself. I probably could have done without the 8 high noons that night, but that night it was about being with friends I hadn't seen in a long time. And I just ate well, ate my calories, and saved those calories for the 8 high noons. It's 800 calories. It's just math. Everybody can do it. But yeah, stay consistent and believe in yourself. I mean, I think, I got down on myself for 3 or 4 days, and that was tough. And, it was Ambra really who brought me back. And,
Yeah.
we all have intrinsic motivation too, but I would tell anybody is, if you find a program like this, it's not the DC fitness program, it's your program, right? It's DC running it, or it's Amber running it and Dylan running it. But the programs are tailored to you and your goals. I've never felt like our goals were misaligned. And the program is really built for what I wanted. I'm not trying to be the next Mr. Olympia. I'm trying to get in really good shape and be cut, but that's part of the program, and you have to believe in it. And I think for me, you're either all in or all out. I don't think there's anything in between. And your coaches will hold you accountable, but you kind of have to hold yourself accountable too. And certainly I've had my ups and downs, but if you stay consistent enough, it works. And I'm in a new phase now of building, and I'm learning the traps with macros and Ambra, and what's going to build muscle, and getting better at form. And I would encourage people to really say, okay, what does the next year look like, right? And that's something Amber really broke down for me. It's helpful for me, and I think it's helpful for a lot of people to know what the end goal is, and it really should be your goals. But it's just really neat to be able to say, okay, a year from now, here's where I want to be, and say, okay, I had 3 or 4 bad days. It's like, well, you still got 361, 362 more days to make up for that, and there's going to be more, but if you can stay consistent and enjoy it, that's the last thing,
Yeah.
is try to enjoy the process too. And not every moment's enjoyable, but excuse me. For a large part of it, I enjoyed it. The 4 months I've been, doing this now, is I probably had a week total where I didn't enjoy it, and it's usually self-induced. It was because I had to get up after 8 high noons and get back at it the next day. But it's tough. I mean, I travel, 3 kids, it's busy. It's just do the best to, even if you have a busy day, get out there and go for a walk. And Amber encourages to me, it's like, just get up, walk around your office, or go outside and answer emails while you're walking around your parking lot. And I've been doing that, and seems crazy, but I've been using dictation while I walk, or, making sure my lunch break. I mean, I can eat my lunch at my desk. So, instead of, if I have a really busy morning, I might just go for a light jog and then actually do my lift at lunch, right? Just to break up the day. But but just
Yeah.
make the time.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment. It certainly is. But if you don't you know parse out a half hour a day, I think you're doing
Mhm.
yourself a disservice anyways, even if you're not on a program. But self-care, weightlifting,
Yeah.
running, whatever it is, classes, I mean, that's, you have to make the time and the commitment. And once you do that, it becomes part of your routine. So I don't even think about it. Like Sunday
Yeah.
I woke up and I just walked right out of bed and put my running stuff on and went for a jog, right? It's
Yeah.
normal for me
Yeah.
now.
Absolutely. That's great, man. And I'm so grateful for you to be a part of our community and to get the results you have. And I know you probably been pinged this whole time, so I'll let you go here. But yeah, again, I really just appreciate you hopping on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've had such a great time. And it's been a fun 4 months for the most part. It's challenging at times, but this is such a great program. It's literally been life-changing for me, and I can't thank you and Ambra enough, and
Yeah.
PT as a
Yeah.
whole. It's been a
Yeah.
lot of fun. So
Yeah. Appreciate you, and appreciate you hopping on, and just grateful that you
sure.
get to be bring energy and everything to the community. I think it's fantastic. Anyone listening, free Black Friday, hit me up. I'll put a link below. Clients get Black Friday thing too. We're doing it right now. Good till Wednesday midnight. But again, Jason, thank you so much for hopping on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you do for us. So